So Jorge Ramos, you know him as the guy that Trump had thrown out of a press conference in 2016 because he asked questions out of turn. He wouldn't wait his turn to ask questions, and so he got thrown out. And now he just came back from Venezuela, where he was confronting Maduro. Right, so he works for Univision, and he showed this. Here's a video he showed. He took video of people eating out of garbage trucks, out of a garbage truck in Venezuela, and apparently he showed it to Maduro. So this is the, so this is the, so you see this? This is the video. Now, I'm going to challenge the veracity of this video because there's a lot of people standing around watching this. Why would that be happening? Why would that be happening? Right? Aaron, have you seen this video?
I have seen this video, and I was just in Venezuela, and I saw people digging through the garbage, and it's always sad to see, but to suggest, as the media has, that this is like uniquely emblematic of what's going on in Venezuela when it's happening all over the world. I mean, I'm in LA right now. I haven't been here in a while, and I was shocked at seeing
right?
the homeless encampments just on many streets,
on every corner and under every bridge. You go downtown, it's unbelievable. It's like Mad Max down there.
And I was going to say, I see this pretty much every day.
Every day, I see this in Los Angeles.
Every day, yeah.
So he's pretending that this is only happening in Venezuela,
exactly.
or he's also pretending that this is what's happening everywhere in Venezuela.
Exactly. So imagine a Venezuelan journalist coming to the U.S., filming, the homeless encampments in L.A., people on the street, and then using that, confronting Donald Trump with that, and then the Venezuelan media using that as part of a propaganda war to install Nancy Pelosi or somebody as president. So it's like, sure, I mean, poverty everywhere is terrible, but like to use this for propaganda purposes is really shameful. It exploits the people who they filmed, and it is also acting as basically an arm of regime change.
Yes,
and there's something really, it's just despicable.
So there's a lot of pieces that are missing from this image as well, because they're not examining the sanctions against Venezuela.
Right. So again, what led to a big part of what led to Venezuela's economic problems is two-pronged. The United States sanctions on them, and remember, sanctions aren't there to help the people or bring democracy. Sanctions are imposed on a country to bring that country to its knees, so then we can then install our own leaders. That's what it's there for, and then our corporations can take their natural resources. Do you know that Venezuela has more oil than Saudi Arabia? So as soon as I heard that, I knew Trump had to bring them some democracy. And so here is Jorge Ramos, and he... again, there is a thing called, and I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing again, COINTELPRO. Is that it? Is that how you say it?
COINTELPRO.
COINTELPRO. And it was revealed that the CIA had literally journalists working for them in every newsroom across the country. And they say that's ended. Well, now who's being naive, Kay? Because Jorge Ramos went down and did straight up propaganda. And you know how I know it? Watch him. He's going to be outed by Max Blumenthal. Because I don't know if you know that Marco Rubio has also been pushing for regime change, just like the people pushing to go into Iraq. Oh, Saddam's a bad guy. They're doing the same thing in Venezuela. The people want to go in and overthrow Maduro so we can get their oil. And Jorge Ramos is pushing that same propaganda. So when asked about, he's going to ask him, hey, are you going to confront? Because he confronted Maduro. That was his big thing. He confronted Maduro. I confronted Maduro, and then Maduro, they held him for a little while, and I'll tell you the rest of those details in a minute. But watch Max Blumenthal just reveal this clown. Watch this.
Any plans to confront Marco Rubio about his threat to kill Nicolas Maduro by posting pictures of him and Gaddafi? Any plans to confront Marco Rubio about his threats of military invasion, or to confront Donald Trump about the sanctions on Venezuela?
So what Max is revealing here by this question is, you're saying that you're a courageous journalist, because right there he's got a bunch of sycophants sitting around him, and he's talking about how I confronted Maduro. And he's like, well, are you going to confront the Trump administration on trying to do a regime change war? Are you going to confront Marco Rubio for trying to do a regime change war? Are you going to confront these people here? Or are you pushing a narrative, Jorge Ramos? And it turns out Jorge Ramos is pushing a narrative because he's not going to confront those people about that. Watch.
What I can tell you is that many people here in the United States supporting what we were doing, and that Marco Rubio, Vice President Pence, and many others were supporting what we were doing over there.
So his response to that question of, are you going to push back on our own government about wanting to do another? He's like, no, they're supporting what we're doing. Pence. He's now bragging that he's working with Pence, Trump, Elliott Abrams, John Bolton. They're supporting what he did. That's his answer to the question, are you going to do journalism back here in the United States? His answer to that was, the United States government supports us. That's the wrong answer, Jorge. Guess what you just revealed, Jorge? That you don't have any integrity, and you're a fucking maniac pushing another war, and you're doing it under the guise of journalism. And guess what? We just caught you. Watch, he's going to keep doing it. Watch.
So you were acting on their behalf and you're accepting their support. No
Absolutely
plans to
not.
confront Marco Rubio on calling for the murder of Nicolas Maduro.
I have been, it's interesting what you're saying, because I have been a journalist for more than 30 years. And
So again, he's not going to answer the question. He's going to try to pull rank. What? This is hilarious. So transparent. What a transparent bullshitter this guy is. He's really bad at it.
independent journalist. And everybody who knows me knows what happened with Donald Trump. Do you remember what happened with Donald Trump?
Yes, you know, the questions were great. If I had done that at a press conference, though, I'd probably be speaking out of turn.
So it is very.
So he's using that he got thrown out of a Donald Trump press conference for asking questions out of turn, which is what he got thrown out for. He's using that now as a shield when he's doing the bidding of the Trump. How could I be doing the bidding of the deep state, CIA, John Bolton, Elliott Abrams, and Donald Trump? Because I got thrown out of a press conference once for asking questions out of turn. How could I possibly be doing their bidding? That's his answer to, are you going to question and push back against the United States government regime change? That's his answer to that is, well,
I got street cred.
He's got street cred.
That I had
no plans to confront Marco Rubio about calling.
That's like going up to Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots. Hey, did you get caught in that sex thing? I won the fucking Super Bowl. I won the Super Bowl. Did you get caught in that sex thing? I've won the Super Bowl. We've won 5 of them. That's what he's doing.
Killing Nicolas Maduro, an elected leader.
I'll do all the questions that need to be made.
Will you ask Marco Rubio why he called for the murder of Nicolas Maduro? Yes or no?
No, he won't.
I'll ask all the politicians the tough questions. I have demonstrated in the past
and bought
that I asked the tough questions to President Trump. I've demonstrated that I've asked the tough questions to Nicolas Maduro,
no,
and I
you're
keep on asking to anyone.
I'll take that as a no.
I'll take that as a no, you propaganda pusher, and we outed you. You're outed forever.
Marco Rubio about calling for the killing of Nicolas
Maduro. I'll ask
Maduro.
anyone the tough questions to anyone.
So you will do so?
No.
What questions?
No, he won't. So here's what Max Blumenthal says. Jorge Ramos, to my question about Rubio's call for murder of Nicolas Maduro, Marco Rubio and Mike Pence and many others were supporting what we were doing in Venezuela. Sounds like a pretty revealing admission that he was acting as a proxy of the United States regime change machine. Yeah. Yeah. Again, he's a regular, this guy's a regular, he's the new, was he Jesse Smollett of Venezuela, this guy? This guy's horrible. Jorge Ramos is the fucking worst. And if there was a prison for journalists, he would be in it.
It just kept going in circles. It's like,
yes.
I say Marco Rubio, you say press conference.
So what do you make of that video, Aaron?
You know, I wouldn't use Max's language. I wouldn't call him a proxy. I just think he's, you know, in this case, being what many unfortunate journalists have been, which is a sellout, which is that they go to countries that are, in this case, the target of regime change, and they help push the propaganda that is being used to realize that goal. I don't think that Jorge Ramos has any kind of formal affiliation with Marco Rubio and Mike Pence. And, you know, in the course of answering Max's questions, I mean, I heard him even say absolutely not when Max pressed him on it, asking him if he was acting on their behalf. So, but I do think that it reflects the dynamic in the media system.
It does. Effectively, it's the same thing.
Well,
you know,
I don't like the word nuance. I don't like the word nuance, but let me use it here because, like, I basically, you know, Noam Chomsky's point in manufacturing consent is that to get to the position that you are to have a prominent media platform, you have to internalize the dominant values of the power systems that control the media. And so even if you're not making into in a formal, you know, COINTELPRO type arrangement, you've internalized their values, and that's why you're allowed to be there. And you're allowed to dissent sometimes. You can challenge Trump on a few things, but this is a case where, especially on issues of regime change, everybody lines up. And, you know, it's too bad that Jorge Ramos appears to be doing that here. But, you know, I'm hoping, I mean, I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. So when Max presses him and says, will you press Marco Rubio on calling for the assassination of the Venezuelan leader? I hope that Jorge Ramos will prove you and Max wrong.
I hope so too,
and do that.
I hope so too.
You know what? Can I say something, Jimmy? Just when I'm looking at the phrase that Jorge Ramos says by saying Marco Rubio and Mike Pence and many others are in support of us here,
right?
I just have to say, wait a minute. I don't even understand what that statement
What does
is.
that have to do with anything?
Aren't you conducting your own job and profession, which is to report?
Right.
When do I need to go to another country and have the support of Marco Rubio or Pence to give me
that makes no sense.
credibility?
It makes no sense.
It doesn't. And that's why I'm suspect of that particular phrase
Yes.
that he's saying, whether or
Yes.
not his first language is English
Makes
or not.
no
I
sense.
do know what
This
he's
guy-
saying when he's saying that.
This guy's either the biggest goddamn sellout in the history of the world, and it looks like he's at least that, and he may be a proxy.
And I would take issue with, I don't think it's the biggest sell in the history of the world, but let me say, it's a good example. And I think Steph just pointed this out like really well, that it's a good example, even though we don't have officially state media, it's a way in which the structure of our media often acts like state media. And, you know, I hope Jorge Ramos remembers who he is, which is a journalist who has done great work in the past, challenging Trump, for example, on immigration. I thought what he did there was really admirable. And I hope he can remember that here and get his integrity back and challenge Marco Rubio as Max asked him whether he would.
Yeah, you know, pretty unforgivable to go to another country and push a regime change propaganda. Pretty unforgivable. He's forever out of the good guys club. Sorry. Unredeemable. Sorry. It's just like John Bolton and Elliot Abrams are on. If you carry the water for them in the media, you're just as bad. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. That's not Aaron's opinion. That's my opinion.
I mean, I just recall, Jimmy, I just have to go back to when Katie Tour interviewed Jorge Ramos after he was escorted from the press room, and she said with a straight face that, you know, the guy that rushed Jorge out of the room, he's a really nice guy.
He was a really nice guy. It's Trump's body man. He's a really nice guy. That was what Katie Tour said.
So what we're seeing is, ultimately everybody's a pretty nice guy.
She wanted to keep her access. She wanted to keep her access to Trump's body man. Pretty nice guy. So this is from Mint Press. They say today's Univision is the largest Spanish language media company in the United States, and it's estimated to reach nearly 60% of all U.S. households. On the board of directors is Israel-American media mega financier Haim Saban, who also serves as Univision's director of communications. And in 2007, Saban organized a network of financiers to bail out the debt-ridden network. So, and now this is from Jorge Ramos. This is his account of what happened. About 17 minutes into our interview, Mr. Maduro stood up, comically tried to block the images on my iPad, and declared that the interview was over, Ramos writes. That's what dictators do. Our self-satisfied narrator assures us, he informed Maduro. This is what Ramos says he said to Maduro. That's what dictators do. Jesus Christ. Per Ramos's account, Maduro then ordered his equipment confiscated. Ramos openly admits in the New York Times that his colleague, Maria Martinez, called Univision's news president, Daniel Cornell, who called the State Department and many news organizations. Despite having backers like the United States State Department, which in the event of the abuse of a journalist like Ramos, may presumably make a phone call to the CIA or Defense Department, Ramos tells us he was concerned about being taken to a detention center or even a darker place. After all, this is a dictator, Maduro, we are talking about. The dictator who allows his opposition to give speeches in the middle of town square, calling him an MFer, Juan Guaido, he's not in prison. I mean, the dictator who holds elections and invites the UN in to come monitor them. Here's the thing Marco Rubio tweeted out. We're going to do to you what we did to Gaddafi. Remember what we did to Gaddafi? Gaddafi had a great state, one of the best countries in Africa, took care of their people. We made him give up his weapons, then we came in and killed him. And that's what Marco Rubio is saying we're going to do to Maduro. We're going to come in and kill you. Now, after we did that to Gaddafi, remember the U.S.-NATO humanitarian intervention, that's what it was called in Libya, a humanitarian intervention, has had disastrous consequences for the country, which was once the wealthiest in Africa, with black migrants being sold as slaves through a burgeoning black market that has flourished since the government was toppled. That's what we did in Libya. That's what they want to do in Venezuela.
I can tell you, Jimmy, by the way, that fear of turning into another Libya is very much on the mind of very many Venezuelans. I heard from them directly going into especially poor neighborhoods, and I heard so many references to being scared of the U.S. wanting to foment a civil war and turn the country into another Libya. And it's a fair concern because, as we saw, there are many analogous features of what happened in Libya, where you have an oil-rich country, you have a demonized global South leader, you have internal polarization, and all this gets exploited. And the U.S. basically goes in and says that the pretext for the Libyan war was that this was going to be a limited humanitarian intervention to stop a potential massacre in Benghazi. So using human rights concerns to launch the war. But then, of course, the war goes way beyond that. And even though you have UN resolutions calling for negotiations. You have Gaddafi even calling for negotiations. The U.S. and its NATO allies go way beyond that, and they destroy the country, and now you have slavery.
And those people are aware of that in Venezuela.
They're very aware of that, and I heard that history and that fear on the minds of many people who I spoke to. So to see Marco Rubio tweeting that out is
unbelievable.
I can't think of a bigger validation of all those fears.
Right?
Yeah.
So Ramos was surrounded by a gaggle of fawning press as he talked about his 3-hour detention at Miraflores Palace by the guards of Nicolas Maduro after he engineered a confrontation with Maduro about people digging through trash in Caracas, as if that doesn't happen minutes from the White House. I've actually seen it many times, says Max Blumenthal. He was clearly proud of acting as a proxy of Rubio and Pence, but sought to flash his adversarial creds by invoking his stunt with Trump. It came off as a desperate deflection from questions he couldn't address. There are few better exchanges than the one that I just had. This is Max Blumenthal talking. Than the one I just had with Jorge Ramos to demonstrate the role that corporate media is playing in Latin America in pushing for the recolonization of countries like Venezuela and Nicaragua and supplying the mood music for regime change. Very well said by Max. I agree with that 100%, and it's a real shame what's happening. And if it was just Jorge Ramos, that would be one thing, but it's everybody. It's everybody, including our politicians. So, again, we're ruled by sociopaths. And there's no getting out, and soon they will silence us. But enjoy it while you can. We're announcing our dates for 2019. We're going to Ventura Comedy Club, March 31st, Tempe, Arizona, Austin, Texas, Portland, Chicago, and lots more. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a list of all our dates and live shows. And please become a patron. We give you hours of bonus material. And please make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you're subscribed, they unsubscribe people every day, and you might be one of them. Check to make sure you're subscribed, and then you have to click the bell twice so they send you a notification when we drop a video. Thanks for your support.